Hello, you're watching Everard Junction, and today is yet another part of building model railway series. So you've just seen the progress I've been making over here in the fuel point. Just general ground cover, painting, various improvements just to make it look a bit better. Still more to do, static grass to add, extra weathering effects to do to the ground between the track. But overall this area is now looking really rather smart. So the next thing I'm going to turn my attention towards is this long narrow strip here between the head shunt and the carriage sidings. I've painted some of it grey just to try and experiment with some ideas and just sort of try and think what I'm going to do. I am going to be putting a smallish building here, a sort of office, if you like, for the staff that man this facility, and then there will also be somewhere for parking. This is the sort of building I'm thinking of. This is a Pico kit, and it's a modular kit, so you can build the building in 3 basic squares. You can have them as small and as large in any shape you like. That's the configuration I built it in some years ago. So I'm going to be using that and also finishing it off. It still needs a lot of painting and signage and various other details adding. But I think that will make a good basis for an office for this area. So I'm going to go for a small sort of curb around the building itself. I'm going to leave enough room for people to get a car through around the side, and then I'll put some other fencing up, and then hopefully be able to just have some limited areas of parking further up. I may also twiddle the position of the building slightly. We'll see how things go. Further up the end, where it gets too narrow, I think again just going to go for some nice basic simple ground cover. Maybe just dirt, possibly grasses. We'll see how it looks. Something else I've also been doing is adding some additional lighting to the layout. Parts of the layout have not been particularly well lit. One of them was over here. This area was always quite dark and dingy, but this is now much improved with the addition of 3 extra lights. So I've got a diffused double light, another one, and another one, which then go with my original light and the 2 that I had over there. And then I've got also these small LED strip lights as well. So I've more than doubled the existing lighting on the layout, and the overall appearance and just the general mood up here is much better. It's a much nicer place to be. It's much brighter and nicer. Okay, so I've made a little sort of platform, little paved area. I'd normally use filler, but I'd like to add lighting in an interior to this building in the future, so I'd like to make it as removable as possible. So the building will just sit on the top there, like so. And I'm reasonably happy with its position, so the next thing I'm going to do is start working on the car parking area. Now, I'd painted the cork a sort of grey, tarmac-y sort of grey colour, but you can still see that it's very much a cork surface. You can see all the little sort of air pockets and little marks, which is the shape and the texture of the cork material. So what I've got is this is just some of the Woodland Scenics Shaper Sheet plaster, which I've mixed with some black paint into a very smooth paste, and that should allow me to basically tar the road and get rid of all of the marks that make it quite clearly cork. So there we go, building's looking a little bit more respectable. I've weathered the brickwork a little bit more, just went over it with a grey wash. I've painted some of it, and I've painted the doors and the windows in a sort of dark British Rail blue kind of scheme to make the building look a little bit older, sort of date it to the 70s, sort of late 70s, early 80s. And I've also added some signage. The signs are copies of real Network South East signs from the period. So we've got one there saying what the building is, and then there's one around here telling visitors to report to the office before proceeding any further into the site, which is also copied from a real sign. I make the signs in Microsoft Paint, nothing fancy. I find a picture of the original real sign, and then I just type out in an appropriate font and colour what I want to do. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is move on to the actual car park, make that look a little bit better. Need some foliage, a little bit of stuff going along the edge here just to separate the car park and the ballast. A bit of soil, a bit of rough ground or something. And I'm also going to put in some basic barriers to prevent any cars going where they shouldn't. To make the basic barriers, what I do is I take this Hornby flexible fencing. It's relatively inexpensive, and they've been making it for years. What I'll do is I'll cut it in half down the middle, so I've got two lines of fence that are 2 rungs high, and then I'll spray it yellow. So there we go. There's a basic barrier installed in there. I've just glued it down with some super glue. I'll probably run another piece along the back there, and another little bit to fill the gap in there. But for the moment, I'll leave it at that. There's a couple of cars in there of the period. You can see roughly what the area is going to look like. Fills the awkward space quite nicely and adds a splash of colour to the area. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is just a little bit of undergrowth and weeds along the edge of the ballast shoulder there and the fence, just to blend the two areas together, make them look a bit neater. This area here will just be sort of waste ground. Might put a few bits and bobs in there, perhaps a little space for an electricity substation or somewhere to give power to the area. We'll see. So that's up for some ideas and development at the moment. And then going along here, I've just got a couple of areas where I need to add in some extra static grass and just continue with the general details. Okay, I'm going to leave the video there, but I'll carry on in the meantime with just adding a few more bits of scenery and building up some of the edges where missed in a couple of places. But on the whole, it's looking pretty good. Happy with that. It's a good place to start, and some more detail to it eventually. Things like lighting, figures, and more signage, things like that. So hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully it gave you a couple of pointers and showed you one or two things. So I'll be back as soon as I can when I can make some more progress on the next part.